Trilly on my soul. I'm the most selfish person that I know. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. Got a couple carrots around my neck. Self-respect, when you out of line, you
We're
put
live.
yourself
Welcome
in
back to
check.
Nice Little Moves. It's your boy, the Scarface. Your boy Scarface. And today we're bringing you another episode. Shout out to everyone. I know last week I didn't come out with an episode. I am sorry. I was out in California, or not California, Arizona. I was out in Arizona, so I wasn't able to make an episode. And also I didn't want to rush anything that way. Like I want you guys to get great quality content from me, guys. Like from me, and not something that's forced, not something that's, like I'm pushing on you guys. So I was like, let me come back. And I really wanted to do this episode because this is something that I have talked about on some one-on-ones. If you haven't booked a one-on-one, definitely check out the link in the bio. You can schedule a one-on-one. And also, as you can see, I was in Arizona, but I didn't get this hat from Arizona. I do sell these pins. So if you're looking to get some pins, the Sleeping Goku bestseller, obviously. We got the Straight Razor. We got the Sleeping Goku, and we also have a baseball for all you baseball fanatics. And it says dingers on it, so it looks like you got hit. Or it looks like the ball got hit, okay? But, or also wherever you're listening to this, please give us a 5-star, a thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, thumbs up, comment, share, whatever you guys can. But the majority of the listens do come from Spotify, so if you guys can leave us a 5-star, it would be great. It helps the podcast out a lot. But today, the episode that I wanted to get into is why it's bad to stay in a toxic relationship for the kids. And I get it because like some people think that if they stay together because of the kids, that they're like it's gonna show them that they're not breaking a happy home apart or anything like that. But you also have to remember that kids are not dumb. Like kids when they're growing up, I know a lot of people brag like, oh, my kid is so smart, this and that. So what makes you think that he's dumb to that, but very smart in other places? Trust me, he's picking up on the toxic vibes, the bad vibes. A while back ago, I did an episode with Rod, and he talked about how him and his ex-wife got in an argument. And even the kid knew it was like bad vibes. You know what I mean? Like, and this is just a toddler because he's like, the way she started crying was different than all the other times that she normally starts crying when she's hungry, sleepy, or anything like that. Like this was the different type of cry. So trust me, kids can pick up on these bad energies. And a lot of people, even now to these days, before I get into the reasons why it's bad, another thing that's the kids would have preferred that their parents separate than them sticking in the same relationship, staying in that relationship, thinking that it's helping them out. The kids would rather see you happy and healthy and doing your thing on your own compared to staying in a toxic relationship and showing them what a broken home can be. You know what I mean? Like these bad vibes, these bad energies, because trust me, they pick up on them. I remember when my parents, I only remember a few fights that they had because they didn't have many. Well, not in front of us or in front of me. And so like that freaked me out thinking that, it's gonna, they were gonna separate and things like that, but it wasn't the case. They just had an argument, but imagine having a kid go through those type of vibes. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure put yourself in when you were a kid and you saw somebody fight or saw your parents argument, or something like that. So think about how you felt that time, so think about how your kids are feeling. Because they're feeling the same, especially if they hear you guys argue. They're not dumb. Again, the kids are not dumb. And a lot of kids now tell their parents, I'm glad they're communicating with them, that they would have had rather seen them separate than stay together like that. Be happy and single than, together in just like a horrible ass relationship. So think about things like that, okay? All right, so I obviously did a little bit of research. So the number one reason why it's bad, it's negative role modeling. Children may learn unhealthy relationship patterns affecting their future relationships. And that's what I was talking about right now. Like, kids are not dumb. You guys brag about, oh, my kid's so smart, my kid this, my kid that. So what makes you think that they're very smart in that area, but they're dumb when it comes to relationships or like you guys arguing and things like that? You think they just become blind to it? No. They're going to pick up on it, and then that's going to affect them later on. You think, like, even when that you think it's not going to bug them later on, trust me, it's going to affect them. Like, I had that conversation with Rod too, like when his earliest memories were, like when you kind of remember. And I remember like this old grocery store. I swear I had to be at least 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like those are my like earliest memories. Like my dad holding me and stuff like that. Like, so I had to be young if my dad was still holding me. So you guys have to think about that. Like how early can you remember, and are aware of what's going on, surroundings, and to them it just becomes normal, like that's how you treat a woman, that's how you treat a man, that's how like relationships are. They're supposed to be arguments, fights, toxic, you know what I mean, like constantly leaving, coming back, and things like that. Like they pick up on it. What do you think they're gonna just like not pick up on it? So so just remember that they imitate you a lot. Like growing up, you're just a lot of kids are like, oh, I want to be like my dad, I want to be like my so like my mom, or and things like that. So again, kids are not stupid. They're gonna pick up on these things. So pay attention to that. The next one that we have is emotional impact. Constant exposure to conflict can lead to emotional stress and anxiety for children. And this is true. Like, trust me, like, I'm sure you're stressed out about it. Like, say you're in a relationship, right? I'm sure you're stressed out about it. May have anxiety, may have like a whole bunch of different feelings. Again, put yourself in their shoes. Like if you ever saw your parents argue or fight or anything like that, how do you think they're feeling? I remember, like I said, I remember my parents got in an argument. I thought it was it. I was freaking out because I was like, this is it. They're going to get divorced. Like it's over. Like I was freaking out. And like in my head, I'm like, no, like what can we do to make sure she doesn't leave, because I thought it was over. I never told them that, but that's how I felt. And so imagine what the kids are going through. Imagine what you went through. So think about that. Like, it's better to separate and be in separate homes now and be happier than to be putting kids through that. Like if you guys are separate and you guys live in different places, you guys can have arguments somewhere else. Like it doesn't have to be in front of them. When you guys live together and that's the case, then obviously you guys are arguing in front of the kids. You guys go into the other room to argue. Trust me, they're picking up on it. I remember when like growing up too, like when my parents would have arguments, let's be honest, like nobody's perfect. My mom would go to one room and my dad would be over there, like, cause they usually in the same room watching TV or whatever the case. Like you could tell when the vibes were off. I was like, oh, well, they're arguing right now, And so, but it wasn't often, but I could still pick up on it because I'm not dumb. So imagine what they're going through. So luckily, I said, like, if my parents were arguing, I didn't see it. They've been married for the longest time. They're always going on date nights and things like that. So it's a healthy relationship. But I'm lucky to have experienced that. There's other people who aren't as lucky and got to experience a different type of home, So again, pay attention to what's going on. Kids are not dumb. Number 3 is limited growth. Kids may struggle with personal development in toxic environment, affecting their self-esteem and confidence. And this is absolutely true. Like, that's why, like, imagine them going to school and they're, oh, our parents, like, I went and did this with my parents and this isn't, like, it was all happy. And then him having to be like, well, my parents were just state argument. We went and did this and it turned into a whole fight, like this isn't, like, trust me, it affects kids at school too. Like, and so that's why, like, later on, they won't tell you that it's bugging them, or, it's later on when they get bigger, when they have issues, like, oh, because they had to deal with that, had to deal with this. And then they had to hold in the feelings, obviously, at school, because we know, like, let's be honest, like, when you're at school, like, kids make fun of you for everything. I got made fun of, like, for my weight, my nose, being Mexican. Like, that's when I realized I was different. Was in not middle school, but elementary. Because kids are just straight up honest. And sometimes they just say whatever and then make fun of you, depending on what kind of home they're going through. So also think about that. Like, it does really limit their growth. And I really like what some of these parents are doing now. Like, they involve themselves very heavily with their kids, they because you see how, like, now it's normal to talk about these issues. So it's great because now they know what not to do and what to do. And what not to do is stay in a toxic ass relationship, because I'm telling you, kids pick up on this stuff, even though you think they're not picking up on it. Like, trust me, it's a thing. So, and then the next one that we have is an unstable home environment. A toxic relationship can create instability at home, hindering a child's sense of security and routine. Again, remember when I talked about how I felt when my parents got in an argument? Like, I felt like they were going to separate. Like, at that time, obviously they weren't going to separate, but in my head, in my mind, like, I was freaking out because I thought my parents were going to separate. You know, I was freaking out. So imagine, like, they don't know what's going on. Like, say like one of the man constantly leaves and comes back. The mom constantly leaves and comes back. They don't know what's going on. They wondering, like, then the kids start blaming themselves, you know, saying like, what do I got to do in order to make mom stay? Or what do I got to do in order to make dad stay? Or you can just be straight up honest. And like, when you guys separate, be like, yeah, like, obviously we didn't work out, you know, tell them in your own way, but tell them that you guys are better off being separate than together. And it happens, you know, people grow apart and it's fine. It's trying to hide them from those things. You know, obviously you want to show them like a healthy relationship, a healthy like family environment. But if that's not what you have at home, then obviously you got to change that, you know, and changing that may be leaving and telling them why you guys got to that spot. So, because that way when they're growing up, they know what to deal with. Like, if I had kids, trust me, like, I've been through ups and downs like crazy. I know I would be straight up with my kids, like, yo, this might happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I'm rooting for you, you know what I mean? But just know that it can happen. So just be aware of that. And I also like would not want to put if I had kids through something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to put them through a relationship where they're like, say me and the girl are constantly fighting and things like that. No, because trust me, they're going to pick up on it. Again, kids are not dumb. Like, you need to quit thinking that the kids are blind to this stuff, are dumb to this stuff. No, they can tell what's going on. So number 5, we have communication issues. Poor communication in parental relationships may hinder healthy communication skills in children. And this is true. This is why I mean, like, some kids will just keep it in. If there's issues at home, who are they going to go to if there's issues at home? You can't go to your parents because the issues are coming from them. You can't talk to your friends because your friends might make fun of you, or you feel like they may feel like they're the only ones going through it. So as they grow up, they start just holding their emotions, which is bad. You know, it's bad, like, because eventually you get to a point where it may not be when they're kids, it may be when they're older, but at one point you just can't hold, like, you just explode, meaning like something happens, you know, and you go off. Again, like, I remember when my ex made me communicate, and just talking, when she finally got me to start talking, like, I don't know where a lot of this stuff came from, you know what I mean? Like, and I just started, I don't know where these tears came from, but it was going on and on and on. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But it was being able to talk about those, but just about issues that I had going on, you know, and being able to talk about that stuff really, really helped a lot. And I felt way better after that. That's why I always tell people to just communicate. Like, it's healthy to communicate. But you also want to instill these type of like situations into the kids too. You know, like, they start young. Like, that's why, like, later it's harder to learn something later on in life, because when you're a kid, you're soaking up everything, you're learning new things, and it's easier to learn stuff. So if you instill those things into them when they're younger, imagine how they're going to be when they're older. You know, they're going to be able to communicate a lot better. Like, especially like in Hispanic families, you don't talk about feelings. You don't talk about how you're, like, what you're dealing with. And like, because I remember for the longest time I got bullied by a girl. Like, I knew you couldn't hit girls, so obviously, like, she kept like messing with me. And then, like, one day I remember I came home, like, we had an argument on the bus, like, because sometimes you got to stand up for yourself. And she just grabbed my face and just like scratched it all on the side. And you could, like, it was deep scratch marks. And then when I got home, you know, like, I was just like, oh, we were playing, like, this and that. You like, because I didn't want to be like, hey, like, this girl's bullying, like, because that's not man-like, that's not boy-like, complaining about something, you know, like, saying like this person is bugging me, or, you know, won't leave me alone and stuff like that. So again, you see how, like, it's important to communicate instead of just me being like, and it's, now that I think about it, like, she would be mean to me and I would be mean to somebody else. And I still remember that girl I was being mean to, and I wish I would have never been mean to her. Like, I feel super bad about it now, but it was just me being mean to her because somebody else was being mean to me. So, see, this is what I mean. Like, you have to create that environment where kids are going to be able to talk, and if they can't talk, like, if you can't talk about your issues to them, like, what makes you think they're going to talk about their issues to you? And what if the issues are coming from your guys' toxic home life? You know what I mean? Think about it. Impact on mental health. Children may experience long-term mental health issues due to prolonged exposure to toxic atmosphere. And again, you see, like, now I'm glad that's why, like, it's the benefit of the internet. You can see a lot of these things, like, where young males, like, even in my, like, age range, talk about how they had issues when they were growing up, you know, because their parents this or their parents that, like, it really affected them. But of course, they didn't talk about it, you know? And a lot of the times, parents would stay together when their relationship was shit. Like, a lot of you guys know someone whose relationship is just shit, and they stay together. So imagine, like, if they have kids, how they feel. Or imagine if they bring a kid into that life, like, how they're going to be. What do you think? They're going to be, like, super perfect? No, it's going to affect them short term and long term. Like, they're not going to obviously tell you, but now, like, when they get older, maybe some sort of argument happens and you start talking. Like, I have a buddy who he got in an argument with his dad. He's a lot older. Got an argument with his dad, and then finally, like, old stuff came up. You know what I mean? Like, from a long time ago. And he said he was glad that that argument came up because he was able to talk, get a lot of things off his chest, his dad as well, and they were in a better space. So imagine if he would have just done that when he was younger. You know what I mean? Like, a lot younger, created those healthy relationships, communication, knowing that they can talk to you about whatever it is. But if you bring them in that, I've seen it. Like, I know someone, you know, I'm always trying not to say exactly who it is, but there's this person that when she was coming up, she was bringing up her kid, and it was a horrible ass relationship. And you can tell on the kid now, you know, like, he's just constantly getting in trouble, constantly, like, bad behavior, doesn't listen to anybody. You know why? Because, like, that's what he saw growing up. He saw just a bunch of arguments, this, and that, like, always arguing, always fighting about something. Never just, like, a happy home. I never seen them actually go out somewhere together as a family. You know, it was usually, like, if there was a party, it was just, like, the girl and the kid, or just, like, the guy and sometimes the kid, you know, but never all three. And of course, he's not going to tell you now because he's still kind of young, the kid, but later on, he's going to tell you. Like, that's something I'm sure that's bugging him. I'm sure it's bugging him, but he's just not going to tell you that. Or he hasn't realized that that's where a lot of his issues came from too. Because you actually have to sit there and think about, like, why am I like this? Why am I thinking like this? Why are things going like this? You know, because it's not normal. So think about that. Mental health is a big thing. And number 7 is difficulty in forming relationships. Kids may find it challenging to form healthy relationships if they grow up witnessing a dysfunctional one. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, how are they going to know what a healthy relationship is if you're keeping them around in a bad one? You know, like, all they know is toxic relationship. You guys arguing, you guys fighting, you guys like this, and the third. Like, what makes you think that he knows what's good? You know? Like, sometimes even in movies and TV shows, like, they show nothing but the bad side. So we have to think about, like, how they are. Kids are very smart. They're not dumb. Like, that's a big thing I want to emphasize, that kids are not dumb. They pick up on everything. Even when you think they're not paying attention. Trust me, like, when I talked about my parents arguing and things like that, like, I knew the vibes were just off. They weren't arguing in front of us, but I just knew that the vibes were off. Something happened. You know, and then the one times I actually did catch them, like, again, there was 2 times when I actually caught them arguing, like, not yelling at each other, but they were, like, arguing. And one time I felt like they were going to get divorced. Again, like I told you before, like, they were going to get divorced. It's over. Like, I was freaking out. And then the second time it was just another argument, but not as bad as the first one, but I was a little bit older and I was just like, there, you know, things happen, you know, especially when you're together for that long. So you have to like think about how the kids feel. Like if you're constantly fighting, constantly arguing, this is the life that you're bringing them up in, and now that's normal. Like that's normal to them, which is not normal. You guys know it's not normal. So it's better to actually separate, go your own ways, create your own happy home over here, and have them create their own happy home over here. Like it may not work out like that, meaning like you may find like maybe somebody else. Again, that's a risk I'd rather take than to stay in this relationship that's not working. Because obviously, like if you get someone with someone else, it's the same thing. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is like a lot of the kids nowadays say they wish their parents would have separated. That way they would have been happier. They would have rather seen their parents happy, separate, than how they were together, because it's worse off. Like, I'm lucky that my parents were not like that. Again, it's normal to have arguments. It's normal to argue with each other, have fights. That's part of life. It happens. It's never just ups. There's downs too. But I saw way more ups than I did downs with my parents. And so I'm lucky because of that. Unfortunately, a lot of other people aren't lucky because of that. They had to deal with a lot of other shit. And so imagine how they feel now. And that's why like a lot of these people are just going through it. Mental health is a huge thing. And a lot of guys, especially guys, they don't want to talk about their problems because it's not cool. It's not macho. It's not, it's better just to keep those feelings inside. But then eventually, like I said, you blow, something happens. An argument happens, you hit somebody, because you just like all these years of just holding stuff in, and then boom, you explode. And it's happened. Trust me, it's happened. That's why, like, when some people like, I don't know what happened. I just blacked out, and next thing I knew, like, a lot of traumas, a lot of issues just being held in, and then eventually you get mad. So, because I've had my fair share of blow-ups and nothing bad. Like, I didn't freaking go and like hit a girl, or I've never hit a girl in my life. Never. I mean, unless you wanted to. That's a different story. There was total consent. You sucias know. But like actually hitting somebody because I was mad about something, no, never. But I did have my fair share of blow-ups with people that I was with at the time. And that was just because I didn't talk about a lot of things. You just hold things in, and then eventually you just blow up. And that happens. It's like we're human. We're not designed to be like perfect. So I really wanted to do this episode just so you guys could like realize and see like some of these things that are going on. If you're going through something similar, like trust me, I think it would be better just to separate. Even if you guys like after you guys tried fixing it, if it didn't work out, you guys know when you guys are stuck in a cycle. So the kids will thank you. They'll be better off too, especially if you guys separate and are in two happy homes instead of like one toxic home. You staying together for the kids ain't necessarily gonna work out the best way. Especially if you guys are still arguing, fighting, and stuff like that. If you're able to like completely hide that, then probably yeah. But trust me, kids are not dumb. You're not dumb. You're not dumb. And especially growing up, you could tell when something was off. You can tell when somebody had an argument. Even now, like you can tell when couples are like in a funk because like it's just awkward, and you can feel that. You can feel those vibes. Because it's funny. One time we went to go hang out with some people. And I was like, were they arguing? Or were they like in a fight or something like that? And he's like, yeah, they were. Because you could just feel that tension, those bad vibes, those bad energies. And I don't even know him like that or anything like that, but I could feel the vibes, like something was off. And so imagine how the kids feel growing up. Come on. We're not dumb. You're not dumb, And especially if you're like, my kid is so smart. He does this, this, and that. But when you guys are arguing and fighting, he somehow becomes dumb or doesn't know what's going on. Come on now. Let's be honest. But I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Definitely give us a thumbs up, a 5-star review, wherever you're listening to. If you guys have ideas for podcast episodes, I am going to have some guests soon. So stay tuned for that. And I'd rather do in-person guests than over Zoom and FaceTime and stuff, just because of audio. Audio is a big thing for me, and I want you guys to have the best audio possible, not just best video, but best audio as well. So I'd rather have people where I can just like physically take my stuff to there or even here and be able to record. So anyways, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing studio-wise because I'm somewhere else. I left the other place now. Now I'm here. Shout out to Social Hustle, Chris, Dallin, all of them for letting me, set up here and do my things here now. So anyways, thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys
For
next time.
any old scenario, that's why I keep my circle smaller than a Cheerio. Cause it's the company you keep. Stay woke, please don't get caught sleep. End up